from like the high school reading. I um I didn't particularly enjoy some of the books that I was forced to read, or at least I was supposed to read. And there are others that weren't so bad. And a couple I actually enjoyed that I didn't think I would. Like the Scarlet Letter. I figured, I mean, it's like a depressing chick flick novel. But I mean, it was interesting, and kept thinking, like, the young priest guy, you are so clearly the father, and you are so clearly a coward. Take the L, lose your job, support your daughter. Anyway, Great Gatsby was a book that I had to read, and I hated it with a burning passion. The characters, except for the main protagonist, they were all idiots. Like, I wanted them all to end up like Gatsby. And then, of course, we watched a movie version after we read it. And the only thing I remember, Robert Redford was Gatsby, I think, in this version. So it wasn't like the Leonardo DiCaprio one. Sam Waterston from Law and Order, Jet McCoy, he was the main dude. And I'm like, he's the only one I have any interest in, and that's only because he's Jet McCoy on Law and Order. That was... Going through that one was kind of like chewing on roofing tile. And then there was this book, I don't even know what it was called. Like, the main guy, his name was Ethan. And he had a wife, Zena or something like that. And she was sick, and he was taking care of her. And she was just like this miserable, like, soul-sucking individual who just weighed him down and wore him out. She had a cat that he couldn't stand, and it was like everywhere watching him, like it was his wife's eyes and ears while she was all bedridden because she was sick. And so her cousin, or niece or something like that, comes to help out. I don't remember exactly all the details of how she ended up getting there, but as time goes on, he and her start drifting closer, and like every time they're just about to kiss or, do something quasi-romantic, the cat shows up, like the personification of the wife, like, I know what you're doing behind my back. So anyway, they're like planning what they're gonna do when his sick wife dies. They're gonna like run off together and have a happy life, and it's winter, and so they're on a fun night out or day out, and they go sledding, and they get into a sleigh accident, and they're both like really crippled. The guy's wife gets better, so she's ending up taking care of both of them. The roles reverse and stuff. She's kind of like gloating over the fact, you guys thought that I was sick and I was gonna die and you'd be rid of me so you could all run off and have your little affair. But look who's all laid up in bed now, and look who's up and free to do whatever they want. So that was surprisingly interesting. I liked the little twist at the end, because I personally thought the whole romantic subplot between this guy and his like wife's niece or cousin or whatever it was, I'm like, dude, it's your wife, man. She's sick. What do you expect her to be? Happy, sunshine, and rainbows? She's dying, as far as you know. So I kind of think they got what they deserved. But and then I think it's that class we also had to read Catch-22. I would have preferred Butting Down on a Side Night Capsule. That book was stupid. The characters were stupid. The plot was insane. And I'm pretty sure the author was on drugs when he wrote it. Now, you could make a case of the perspective of what it's trying to relay. I guess it would make more sense. Because I think it's consciously aware that it's an insane story. But I did not like it at all. And that's one of those books where it's like, one of the greatest pieces of literature written in the 20th century. I'm like, I've read Archie comics that were better than this. Hobbit was another one. Of course, obviously, Hobbit was cool. The school's always always make their kids do like in-class impromptu Shakespeare stuff. And I like the stories. It's just trying to listen to a bunch of 11th graders slog through Shakespearean English is rough. Then, Grapes of Wrath. Grapes of Wrath was the worst out of all of the books I was forced to read in school. And this was for like an AP literary course, so we were going to have a breakdown on our final, because our final was going to be a report on this book. But we first had to take all of the biblical allusions and like point out what they were and how they related to the story and the characters. And then we had to break down the story into the hero's journey, which was a big thing the teacher was really on about in that class. You were going to know the hero's journey. In fact, he said that on our deathbeds we were going to look back at our lives and we were going to categorize it according to the hero's journey. I don't know about that one, but he was big on the hero's journey. And he made a solemn decree that you had to read the material. You could not go to SparkNotes or any of those websites that were just getting popular at that time. Because if you did and you just used chapter synopsises to write out your final paper, you wouldn't pass it. I hated that book so much that I did not read a single word outside of class. Because of course we had a lot of time in class to read it, and then we'd go work on our reports. So I did go to the the cheat sheet websites, right? And I read the character synopsises and the chapter synopsises and the overall points of what was going on. And I got a B+ on the final. So, hate to break it to you, man, but you can pass your final and not actually read the book. But then, yeah, I didn't really read much outside of high school for a while. And then at Goodwill, randomly picked up Michael Crichton's Prey. I think it was Prey. About little nanobot things that were like hunting people down. And I read that in a couple of nights, and then I'm like, oh, reading. I like reading. I need more. So I got another book. I don't remember what this one was, and I read the entire novel in like a night. And then I'm like, more. Me need more novel. So I got a whole bunch of novels, and I was reading. For a while, I was doing pretty consistent. I did like one book at a night, but then I got The Stand, the unedited version, which had some tweaks and a lot of stuff left in that the editor thought Stephen King needed to remove for brevity's sake. I couldn't do that in a night. That was like 1,164 pages. That's definitely not an all-nighter. That's broken up. In fact, it took a while to finish that one, but yeah, the so-called great works of literature. Read some of them, and I'm just like, why is this a great work of literature? Is it just because when it was written, nobody else had anything better to read? Like, don't get me wrong, I understand that book critics, and literary professors, and people who make careers out of what other people write, will lavish praise on these books for decades and decades. They're full of it, man. Those books blew chunks, man. Serious chunkage. I'm trying to think. There was a short story. I think it was called something like The Curse of the Black Pearl. Nothing to do with Pirates of the Caribbean. But this like Mexican family, this poor family, who the dad's out fishing because that's how he supports the family. And he finds a clam or an oyster or something. He pops it open and there's a pearl in it, but it's black. It's like super rare. But like black pearls are supposed to be bad luck, I guess. And so he has this thing, and everybody knows about it. But like the day after he finds it, his little baby gets stung by a scorpion. And he goes to the doctor, and he's like, well, doctor, have to help my baby. And the doctor's like, well, I only work on rich people. But you know, I heard you got this super rare black pearl. I'd be willing to treat your baby for the black pearl. The guy's like, this is like my ticket to not be poor anymore. I'll have to think on that. So he goes home, and the doctor sends goons to try to steal it from him, and he ends up killing one of the goons. The dad does, and so they flee the city, and the doctor has people go after him. The dad realizes it, and so he like holds the kid and the mom up in this cave in the middle of the night while he sneaks down, because he's going to have to go get rid of these bounty hunters, basically. And the little baby starts crying as he's like sneaking on their little camp, and they can hear him, and they think it's a coyote. So this one guy like randomly just like shoots up at the cave, and the dad's like, well, this is my chance. So he goes in and he fights the three guys, and he kills all three of them. And then he goes back up to the cave, and it's all real quiet, and he got like a torch with him or something, you know. And he sees his wife sitting there, the baby's dead. The bullet from the guy's rifle hit the baby in the head, and it's like blood everywhere. And so they go back to the town with little baby all wrapped up in a little funeral shroud, and everybody in town watches as they just sulk through the center of town, right past the doctor. The guy like takes the pearl and he just chucks it in the ocean because it was bad luck. And I think we read that because the teacher was getting us ready for depressing things to read, like Elie Wiesel's Night, because you don't really get much more depressing than the Holocaust. And considering it's a book written by someone who survived the Holocaust, about the Holocaust, yeah. So, I don't really remember anything else that stood out reading-wise in high school. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we did like little impromptu school plays, Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet. So I did Romeo and Juliet first. I was Mercutio, so I got to die. And when in a different English class, when Hamlet came around, I picked Horatio because I cheated, and I looked and I saw that he lived at the end, and I'm like, I'm not dying this time, boy. I'm making it. Yeah, I'll sit there and I'll spill the beans of the whole story to young Fortinbras, but I'm still living. There was this really weird one where this old French maid, well, not maid, but like maiden, like she was like an old rich French woman, was hiding a British fighter pilot during World War II. This German corporal was like convinced that she was hiding him, but he could never prove it. And she had this flighty maid with her all the time, who was kind of known as a village bicycle. And the corporal overhears one night where she's talking to this other person about this guy that they've got hidden. And it's like the corporal comes storming into the house. He's like, Achtung, where is the Allied pilot? And they like have to make up all this fake stuff, like this is actually her son or something like that. It was actually really fun. I was the German corporal. We had another one. It was a story. We didn't play this one out. It's a British pilot who gets shot down, and he gets captured by the Germans, and he's in hospital. And the nurses are all like, "Oh, we're glad you recovered. We don't know what unit you're from. You need to help us out so we can figure out how to get you back to your unit when you get better." And the guy's like really suspicious, just something not sitting right with him. And like even like they bring in another pilot, and he's like, "I'm with this unit, blah 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 blah." And the guy's like, "No, I don't. Something wrong here." Finally, he hears like a pair of Stukas fly by, and he goes, "Those are Stukas. You can tell it's just the distinct engine noise of a Stuka." And the nurse is like, "Oh, we still have Germans dropping bombs on us once in a while." And he goes, "Well, then why isn't anybody shooting at these Stukas? Where are our fighters? Where's the anti-aircraft gun? Where are the bombs? They're not dropping anything." And the nurse says, "Oh, well, I'm sure the flight leader, what's his name, the other British pilot, he can answer your questions." And so the doctor comes back with this guy and goes, "Oh, are you ready to help us today? Blah, blah, blah." And the guy just starts like reading his name, his rank, and his serial number, like what the Geneva Convention requires a POW to give, and nothing else. After it becomes really obvious that the guy's realized he's not on the right side of the English Channel. Then the Germans come in and are like, "Ah, ja, prisoner, ja." That didn't really have a happy ending, because he's going straight to a Luftwaffe prison camp when he's better. But yeah, I think those were all pretty much the only really stories in high school that I remember. Yeah, that's about it.